including 80% current affairs video and general studies complete videos. Please subscribe to our complete package. 1. Even though floods are striking like snoozing alarms, why state and municipal governments are not waking up? What are the escape clauses that our governments need to put their fingers on, so as to recalibrate them? GS Paper 3, Disaster Management. As far as floods is concerned, what had become a fact till now? While history repeats itself, we do not seem to be learning from the past experiences. One after the other, whether it was Guwahati, Mumbai, Srinagar or Chennai, each time is a repeat of the same misery, loss of life, destruction of property, millions in relief and business as usual after the crisis is over. What we need to do is to analyze each of these urban floodwater disasters carefully, isolate the problems and issues and make preparatory actions for prevention. Unfortunately, this is not being done. Almost all the state governments in India have flood control departments and river irrigation departments. To manage city water systems, there are public health engineering departments as well. Also, there are development authorities and municipal corporations. Master plans for most of the large cities also exist. Even then, what we only see is a blame game and nothing more. What are the escape clauses that our governments need to put their fingers on, so as to recalibrate them? All over the map, urban expansion. Human settlements traditionally have always originated close to a water source, invariably a river. Human settlements traditionally developed on the highest part of the surrounding geography, so that in the event of excessive rain, the buildings would be safe from both rain as well as the rising floodwater in the river. But in the modern day, as the settlement expands and spreads and lowlands being increasingly get occupied, in the absence of scientifically planned and executed drainage systems, this is the starting point for disasters. Even in normal rains, forget about excessive rains. Encroachments. Cities are hubs of employment generation. They also hold a huge potential for self-employment of a varied kind. Agglomeration economy attracts the poor and the rural into the city. Obviously, with limited means and lack of state support, they are forced to live on the margins and low-lying areas get encroached upon by them. There is hardly any policing, and even if there is, an unholy nexus gets created to only perpetuate this phenomenon even further. Obviously, in the event of a disaster, they are the first casualty. Illegal land colonization. One of the assets that has been in great demand in our cities is property. Huge tracts of land, often without designed infrastructure, are developed and people start getting on with their lives. Just before elections, these illegal land subdivisions or unauthorized colonies get regularized. These are in fact incubators of vote banks. 25 to 40% of Indian urban citizens live in illegal colonies which do not have any drainage. And finally they will be ended up as prey for floods. Breaking the natural courses. The natural lay of the land leads to the development of natural drainage channels. Whenever it rains, water takes to the natural slopes, water courses, natural channels and goes from the higher to the lower elevation. Whenever urban development happens on these channels, these get disturbed. Due to covering up of natural channels, the area of percolation decreases, runoff increases, and the shrinking watercourses actually have to carry much more water now than previously. All this makes a good recipe for disasters. Lack of technical skill. To lay a good drainage plan for a city and implement the same, you need skilled planning, designing as well as execution engineers. Unfortunately, planning engineers are almost a non-existing breed, at least in the area of hydraulics, flood engineering and public health engineering. The situation with design engineers may be a slight shade better. In India, only about a dozen flood engineering courses are offered, and lesser is the count of public health engineering courses. The irony of Indian youngsters is that they want to be software and IT engineers. Severe funding limitations. Most funding agencies operate on the principle of cost recovery and commercial viability. Flood control and city drainage works are not private goods or services and hence difficult to charge. Spending on a flyovers or a statue provides more visibility for our politicians than underground pipelines. This sector has unfortunately received little attention and funding. The sheer magnitude of funding required for a comprehensive scheme is very lumpy. Master planning not enough. Most people do not know what a master plan is and expect the master plan to cover everything. A master plan is a broad vision document and lays down the general framework. The details are to be worked out by other specialized engineering agencies. Governments have to arrange for funds for implementation. Urban planners are not mandated to implement plans which they prepare. There are other agencies who undertake the task. Building a city is a multi-stakeholder task. Hence, blaming a town planner for flooding is perhaps akin to blaming the doctor when you get a heart attack. Poor urban governance. Finally, the system of urban governance that we have inherited has to change. Western systems of urban governance cannot work in an Indian situation. We need to develop our own system suited to our own peculiarities. Without technology, skilled manpower and funds, the basic infrastructure for urban flood control cannot be laid. Indian cities are still grappling with basic urban infrastructure issues even after decades of urban governance. The significance of urban flooding, particularly in India, which has a long coastline and the threat of global warming and climate change looming large, cannot be underestimated. 2. Rare full moon to light up skies on Christmas. What is full cold moon? Why it is called so? What is summer solstice? What is winter solstice? GS Paper 3, Space. Why recently in news? A full moon will light up the skies this Christmas, a rare event which has not occurred since 1977 and will not happen again till 2034, according to NASA. December's full moon, the last of the year, is called the full cold moon because it occurs during the beginning of winter. The winter solstice, officially marking the change of seasons, actually comes a few days earlier, just before midnight on December 21st.